My name is Parker, and I want to share a story that forever changed the way I see life. There are many humiliations a man can face, but nothing compares to being struck by another man in front of your own family. That moment isn't just skin against skin. It's your pride being crushed, your dignity broken. It strips away every part of who you are as a husband and as a father in a single public instant. And if you don't fight back, not only with your hands but with your spirit, people begin to see you differently, like you're weak, like you deserved it. I know this truth not because I was told but because I lived through it. It was the day my wife's lover raised his hand against me, in front of her, in front of our little boy. In that split second, something primal woke inside me. That man learned quickly that some boundaries should never be crossed without consequences. But let me be clear, this isn't just a tale about a slap. It runs far deeper. It's about betrayal that cuts straight to the soul. About how life often kicks you when you're already down. And about finding the strength to rise again when the world tries to bury you. 6 years ago I married Naomi. I was 28, she was 25. Young, blindly hopeful, and hopelessly in love. I can still picture her walking down the aisle, glowing with beauty and promise. In that moment I believed I had everything. Naomi wasn't just my wife. She was a dream I had been chasing. Not long after we married, Naomi discovered she was pregnant. It wasn't planned, but it felt like fate was blessing us. We welcomed it wholeheartedly. She decided to stay home to raise our son during his early years. She embraced motherhood with such grace and devotion that it amazed me. I did everything I could to support her, emotionally, financially, in every way. At the time I had a steady job in a corporate office. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid well and kept us comfortable. Those were our golden years. We weren't wealthy, but we were happy. We laughed, we dreamed, and talked about moving into a bigger place, maybe giving our son a sibling. For a while, it felt like we had found the balance most people chase but few ever reach. Then, as life often does, things changed. The company I had served loyally for years was sold. At first, everyone expected improvements, better systems, new opportunities. Instead came cold efficiency and mass layoffs. I was one of the so-called redundant resources. Overnight I was unemployed. I didn't have time to grieve. Bills don't wait for sorrow. I signed up for a ride-hailing app and started driving strangers around town, sometimes even picking up former coworkers still wearing suits while I wore a driver's badge. At night I tried to build an online store. I studied dropshipping, paid for courses, followed every blueprint I could find. But nothing worked. Sales never came. My savings disappeared, and with it so did my hope. It felt like every door was locked against me. And it wasn't just my wallet bleeding. I was emotionally exhausted. Naomi tried to be patient at first. But over time her patience wore thin. Her words shifted. Her tone hardened. It wasn't only what she said, but what she left unsaid. I could feel her pulling away, one cold glance at a time. I knew she was tired. We both were. But I was still fighting every day. And losing that fight slowly kills a man inside. Our conversations faded. We barely touched anymore. We had become two people simply sharing a roof and a child. The only thing keeping me strong in those dark days was my son. His laughter, his small hand in mine, the way he called me Dad with sparkling eyes. He was the anchor stopping me from sinking into despair completely. But Naomi, she was changing. I couldn't name it at first, but something in her spirit had shifted. She started staying out late, offering no explanations. And when I asked, as any husband should, she snapped back with venom. "Why do you care?" Or worse, "That's none of your business." I wanted to believe it was just frustration, a passing storm. I kept telling myself that once I got back on my feet, things would return to normal. But deep down I already knew. Then came the day that shattered the illusion. My car had been acting up for weeks and finally broke down. I left it at the mechanic and walked home. The house was empty. Our son was still at school. I sat in silence, trying to figure out how to stretch the last few dollars until week's end. That's when I heard a car pull into the driveway. I looked outside and my blood froze. Naomi was in the passenger seat of a sleek silver sedan. Behind the wheel sat a man I had never seen. She stepped out smiling, relaxed. Then she leaned in, coaxing him to come inside. He shook his head, clearly in a hurry, but then, like a punch to the gut, I watched him grab her by the waist, kiss her on the lips, and call her a good girl as she giggled like a teenager. I couldn't breathe. She came in a moment later and froze when she saw me waiting, arms crossed, eyes burning with silence louder than screams. She tried to speak, but I stopped her. I asked only one question. How long has this been going on? She pretended not to understand. I repeated it, sharper this time. How long have you been cheating on me, Naomi? That's when the mask fell. She didn't deny it. She got defensive, furious. Even tried to flip the blame, saying I had no right to question her, as if I were the one betraying her. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I simply walked into the bedroom and shut the door. In the days that followed, she made no effort to hide her affair. It was as if she no longer cared to pretend. She came and went freely, no excuses, no apologies. And that, my friend, is where the real story begins. She wouldn't even answer when I spoke. Wouldn't meet my eyes. It wasn't silence, it was colder than that. I could see it written in her gaze. She believed she had the upper hand. She believed I was stuck, powerless. She thought I wouldn't dare act because now she had the steady income, the paycheck, the control. She carried herself like the one holding the sword, while I was just an obstacle in her way, an inconvenience she hadn't yet figured out how to remove. And the hardest truth was, she wasn't wrong to think my heart revolved around one thing, our son. That's where she believed she had me trapped. And maybe for a time she did. She never said it outright, but I saw it in her actions, in her tone whenever she bothered to speak. It was like she was daring me to push back. As if she wanted me to raise my voice, to resist, so she could threaten to take my boy, file for divorce, bury me under child support, and drain what little strength I had left. Not just money but spirit. She had the system leaning her way, and she knew it. I'll admit, at first I gave in. I swallowed my pride, stayed quiet, kept the peace for the sake of my son. But each day, a little more of me was eaten alive by the silence, by the shame of living under the same roof with a woman who no longer respected me, who flaunted her affair openly, even in front of our child. It was like dying slowly, death by 1,000 cuts to the heart. I wasn't living anymore. I was only existing. Then something inside shifted. A voice I thought had gone silent whispered, "This cannot be your life forever." I realized it was time, not to rage, not to fight with fists, but to reclaim control with patience and strategy. On a quiet afternoon, I picked up the phone and called a divorce attorney. I explained everything, her affair, her neglect, the silent threats, the manipulation. I didn't beg for sympathy. I wanted direction. The lawyer listened carefully, then gave advice that hit like lightning. Don't wait for her to file first. File now and do it in Tennessee. Tennessee is a fault-based divorce state. Adultery is recognized as a legal reason a marriage ends. That detail changes everything. In custody battles, when you're protecting your child from instability, it can mean the difference between keeping your place in his life or being erased. I gave the lawyer the green light. No hesitation. Papers were drawn up, and for the first time in years I wasn't just reacting, I was taking the lead. Together we gathered evidence, proof of her affair, details of her reckless choices. I didn't want revenge. I wanted protection for my son, for his future. He deserved stability. He didn't deserve to watch strange men walk in and out of his home while his mother pretended nothing was wrong. One afternoon while home with him, I heard tires crunch in the driveway. I looked out and saw her again, stepping out of his car, smiling carefree, whispering to him as if they'd returned from some getaway. That was the breaking point. I stepped outside, arms crossed, waiting on the porch. She walked up the steps, ignoring me, while he lingered near the car, smirking. I looked at her and said firmly, "What you're doing is wrong. Bringing another man to this house, around our son, is reckless. It's teaching him the worst kind of example." She didn't flinch. No apology. just rolled her eyes like I was background noise. And then he stepped closer. Calm but steady, I told him. Mind your business. Leave my property. He smirked. It's your wife's place. Once she divorces you, you'll be the one leaving. Something inside me snapped, not in anger but in clarity. I stared at him unshaken. You're a homewrecker. A coward sneaking around and calling it love. You destroyed a family. And you think that makes you a man. The word struck. His face tightened, and suddenly his hand rose to slap me. But he never got the chance. I caught his wrist midair, twisted it back until he screamed, dropping to the ground, clutching his arm like a child. Naomi shouted, not for me but for him. Let him go, you're hurting him. In that moment, I saw the truth plain as day. She wasn't mine anymore. Hadn't been for a long time. I released him, stepped back. He groaned on the ground, while she rushed to cradle him like he was the victim. I looked at them both, calm, certain. This marriage is over. The ambulance came. Naomi left with him that night and never returned. The next morning, I sat in the living room with divorce papers spread across the table. No hesitation. I packed a small bag, woke my son, and we left. Headed for Tennessee. Back to my roots, to family, to safety, to sanity. When I finally charged my phone the next day, I saw 89 missed calls. All from Naomi. She must have come home to find the house empty, the car gone, her son gone, and divorce papers waiting like a silent goodbye. But I wasn't finished. Tennessee has something called alienation of affection. If someone knowingly breaks apart a marriage, you can sue them. And I did. When that court summons reached his door, I guarantee the laughter stopped. Meanwhile, the custody fight began. Naomi tried every tactic. She called me distant, tried to paint me unfit. But I came with evidence, with truth. And the court listened. I was granted temporary custody. While the case continued, Naomi unraveled. But for once, I didn't care about her rage. My only concern was my son's well-being. Returning to Tennessee felt like breathing fresh air after years underwater. No more walking on eggshells. No more icy silences. My parents welcomed us with open arms. My boy had cousins to play with, uncles to guide him, grandparents who covered him with love. And I could breathe again. I slept, I ate, I lived. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was rebuilding, becoming the father my son deserved, becoming the man I thought I had lost. So if you're reading this while facing heartbreak, betrayal, or a custody battle, hear me clearly. You are not weak for caring. You are not broken for feeling lost. And you are never wrong for fighting, for your child, for your peace, for your dignity. Life doesn't only hand out storms. Sometimes it throws you into them. But the storm doesn't get the final word, you do. If you've walked a similar road, or if you're still in it, share your story. Someone out there needs to know they are not alone. That healing is possible. That leaving is not failure. It's survival. And survival is the first step toward strength. Thanks for hearing mine. Until next time, stay strong. Protect your peace.